Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. I'm super happy to be doing a live today with Dr. Hoda Kilani. She was an educational consultant for many years before spending the last 7 years as a career coach. And she's been helping so many people, adults and especially youth and their families, come together and really find a vision for the future that's important to them. So I hope you have a great time with our discussion today. I hope it gives you lots of great ideas that you can use in your life, or if you're thinking of other people that you can share with them. Please feel free throughout this, of course, to post questions, and we'd be happy to address them or any comments you have. And Hoda, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Leah. Well, I want to start by thanking you for this interview. I really appreciate you reaching out and having us do this together. It's my honor to be part of your working team, and we are working on a lot of things together. So I'm very happy to be here as well. My name is Hoda, and I have been in the working with young adults for more than 20 years. I started working as a tutor in the Calgary public, charter, and private school systems. And about 15 years ago, I became an educational consultant, and that was because I was helping students fill out university application in Canada and abroad. And then about 7 years ago, in 2013, and due to many of my clients being young and wanting, really, when I was filling out university application for them, they needed more than fill out the university. They need help figuring out which program to apply to in the university, because they did not know. And it was not just about filling out the application. And so I got certified as a career coach then went back to university, also got a degree, a master's degree and a doctorate degree. And here I am 7 years later, enjoying my work as a career coach, working with young adults ages 14 to 25.
Well, that sounds amazing. And like, wow, what a scope of experience to be able to help those young people as they're trying to figure that out. I think you're so right that it's not enough to just fill out a form to make all the decisions on your future. So since you've been on this path, have you noticed there's certain challenges that tend to come up with youth and their families more than others? Like what do they come to you for? What challenges?
Most of the young adults I work with, they come to me because they want to go to university. They're grade 11, 12. Some of them, their parents are very active, so they come to me in grade 10 as well. And they just don't know what they want to do. They in grade 12, sometimes they'd be thinking of taking a gap year. So they don't want to do with life after high school. They're not sure. Their parents are concerned, of course, because they want them to know what to do. But also they think, well, I just want to take a gap year, let's say, and figure it out later. And usually parents don't like that. I am a fan of gap years, but we can talk about that in later if you like. But that's what they come for. And another one that they come for is that there is a conflict between what the parents want for the child and what the child wants for themselves. And that I become more of a facilitator and just try to see, get the two viewpoints together and hopefully reach a program that they will both approve of.
Yeah. Well, that was what I was thinking. It's got to be one of the harder points is you're not really just working with a youth. You're often working, I'm guessing, with the parents as they have a certain way they think that you should go, or they really worry about maybe, the youth's passions actually being able to make them money. As much as that sounds like a bit of a trope, it's, I'm guessing, pretty common. And it sounds like it's something that people often come to you asking for that support with.
Yes, and I think I've shared this example with you about the parents whose daughter wanted to get into a music program. And they were upset by that. She was very adamant in that she knew what she was doing, of course, but she was 16 and they thought she didn't know what's best for her. And that's what, and the parents wanted her to get into a program that offers more job stability, offers more financial stability. And so they could not see how within the music field she could find a program. But we got down to the details of what she liked about music, and then we would talk, of course, again, I'll stick with the music program example, is that there are so many careers within the music. So there's production, there's working in the studio with different opportunities to within it there as well. So that's what we dig in typically when I come, I get a client like that.
Yeah. So I hear it's not just about understanding their passion, but actually helping them explore their options within that passion.
What I tell young adults when they come to me with their parents is that if you can convince me of why music is important to you and what you're going to do with it, I can sell it to your parents. And so that is the most important part. If they know what they're doing, and many young people know what they want to do with it, but the problem becomes, and again, this is a topic you and I are very is important to us, is that parents don't actually listen to their, and I'm not saying all parents don't, but you really need to sit down with the child and say, or with the teenagers and say, what is going on through your mind? So, okay, you want to go into music. How do you see yourself making money in music? Not just shut it down completely and say, no, it's not going to work. And that's the active listening part that you and I always talk about, right?
Yeah. Well, because it's I agree with you. I don't think it's always quite as easy as just saying, just listen to your teenager. I think so many parents are trying to do that, but there's a piece of what you're listening for that you've obviously gained a lot of skill at, that you can help people understand, the deeper meaning of what their kids are saying. Because teenagers also might not have the communication skills to really explain why their passion is important to them. You have specific skills at drawing that out of them that have probably really helped with that. And I can understand too, the parents are probably coming in with a lot of stress because they might be financially committing to trying to help this youth go to university or to a trade school. And that's a big time and money investment that they want to make sure that they're making a good investment for themselves as well and for the whole family.
Absolutely. And I get a lot where they heard, their nephew, their neighbor's kid who went to university for 2 years and then decided the program's not a good fit, and now they want to switch out. And so their concern is, I don't want to have to go through this. I don't want to pay for 6 years university versus 4. But the questions you mentioned, there is definitely the question part, but it's for me, you start with questions and then reflection on the answers to these questions. And I'll give you an example about myself. One of my favorite things to do is to go out for coffee with friends. So if your child says, well, this is what I'm going to be doing all my life, how do you build on that, right? So you dig deeper and you ask me, so what do you like about the coffees? So, and it's because I get to hang out with a friend, I listen to her story, and I get to give my opinion about what's going through her life. And so this is where picking up the skills of what I do and what's happening. And within that coffee time, then you can start to learn what it is that your child enjoys. It seems easy. I know it's not easy, but it's about just sitting down and writing things down and reflecting on them. So it's tough for parents. I mean, I went through it as a parent, and if there's a book about parenting and kiddies, I have read it. And I can share a lot of books if anyone is interested with that, to read and build on that by themselves. But yes, it's about questioning and maybe mentally putting their answers in mind and reflecting on what do they mean. Well, I just want to play video games all day. And that's the kind of job I want to be looking for.
Yeah.
And I'll use the video game again, just to elaborate a little bit. I hope it's okay.
Please.
It's so when we talk about video games, and many young men like to do that, it's about what video game they play. Does it offer challenges? So what's the satisfaction? Is it solving the challenge, or is it the whole trip through the challenge? Is it looking for the prize or collecting points? And all of these gives you an idea of who your child is and why are they passionate about the video game. It's not just about them clicking buttons. There's more to it usually.
Yeah. And I mean, we've talked about this before, and I completely love that you approach it from that place of what are they actually valuing in that, because video games, like you said, are not the only solution to get that sense for them. Now we see we have a question from Mona, which I think is a really good one. If parents are paying the bill for their youth to come into you, do you sometimes get pressured by them to sell their perspective to the teenager?
Thank you for your question, Mona. And that's a good question. But I usually have a contract that parents have to sign, and I lay out the rules from the beginning. Is that you have to do what is good for your child. And as a parent with an immigrant background, I understand where, like, I have two boys and I wanted them to be engineers or doctors because that was how I was raised. And right now I've turned 180 degrees and I'm like, no, you should listen to your child. And typically they will know. Like, I had a child who was very smart and I thought he had every potential to become a medical doctor, a specialist indeed. But he was like, no, I just want to do a business degree. So imagine my shock when he told me that back then. But he got into the business program because he was able to convince me in that, Mom, I have a plan. I know why I want to get into this business program. I'm not just saying to do that just to go to university and go kill time. And I made him write a plan, and that's what I do with my clients. Is that write a plan, show me why music is important, how you're going to make a living of it. Because honestly, we all have to pay bills at the end of the day, and realistically, they have to move out of their parents' house one day. And that's where I come as a third perspective. So the kids are, of course, welcoming that. But even with the parents, one of the terms I find I use a lot is just really listen. Like, are you really listening? Because I will have an interview. One of the things I do is I sit with the child and the parents as in the background. So they're not allowed to comment. And I say, for 5 minutes, just listen to me talking to them and hear them out. And that usually allows the parents to say, okay, we'll work with you. Let's see where you're going to head with that. And it works. It works because sometimes as a parent, and I wish I had someone so I wouldn't have had as many arguments with my younger son, had told me that. Just listen to him, sit down and be receptive to his, answers and that, yeah.
Well, so that to me sounds like a great tip for parents. And like you said, not as easy as just saying, just listen, because someone may have told you that when you were going through that process. But what it sounds like you're saying is, ask them to really sit down with a piece of paper, tell them that you will specifically not speak for a certain amount of time. I think is actually a really important thing, is that they know they'll have uninterrupted time to report to you. And it actually sounds kind of like the parents almost have to take a bit of their own personal journey of maybe letting go of expectations or ideas about even maybe what their teenager likes or is able to do, any of those pieces. So that actually I could see being a challenging piece for parents, but so rewarding to have taken that time and very, very intentionally tried to give their teenager that space to present to them. Because I would think, even if they're still not in agreement at the end, even if they don't think the plan is completely airtight, that creates a different discussion than someone just saying, I want to play video games forever, right? It creates, oh, well, I'm hearing this piece or I'm hearing this. And I'm guessing the kids also feel, my own work with teenagers, I know that teenagers often feel unheard, especially by their parents about things like this, about their future. So I love that idea. Do you have any other tips that parents could try at home that would really help get them on this path?
Well, I recommend reading books to find out what works for you. One of the books I read that really did that 180 degree is actually used the word letting go. That's the name of the book. And it really highlights for parents what is important in the long term. But one of the things I'd like to talk about, that you and I are partnering up on a workshop. And this is the kind of discussion we will be having. And we will give you hands-on exercises to start that process. Just some, interactive exercises that you will leave with ideas, and we will provide more resources as well on how to build that habit of, and I would say actually listening, because I was listening to my child, but I think in the back of my mind, my beliefs and my values were influencing how I reacted to my child's reaction. And we need to, unfortunately, as older adults, we need to put some of our values aside and hear to what our kids are going through right now. And with that, then we can bring our values back in, because, for example, one of the values is you need to pay the bills. and we need to find out how they're planning on doing that. So, but let's find out first which direction they want to be headed and why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any, we'll talk, I think, a little bit more about the workshop as well. So one of the things I'm hearing from you is, it might not be as easy as one discussion or one book, but definitely it's worth it to put the effort in. Are there any, because we've talked about this as well, is it might be actually that the teenager doesn't know which way they want to go, right? It's not that they are set on a path and there's that conflict, but they actually don't know. Are there any activities you'd recommend them doing with their parents, or that their parents can offer them, that would also help them get a bit of that initial sense of what direction might work for them?
I have lots of activities. I'm trying to think of one that would be the easiest follow. There is one that I picked up from one of career coaches who mentors me, and it's called the STAR. And it's an acronym for situation, task, accomplishment, and results. With that is ask your child to think of one situation that they enjoyed. And I call it experiences as well. Anything that they did in the past month that they think they're proud of. So that would be the situation. And so what was involved in that situation, even if the situation is I won a video game and I was the top performer, that is nothing wrong with that. So we dig deep into what was the task in that situation. And you can discuss that. Again, it all really revolves around you sitting with your children and talking to them. And after that, what was the accomplishment? What I was the first one to win that game or got the highest points. And the results, for me, what they mean is that now, how did you do that? What was the process? And what kind of skills were involved in that process? That's where the big building becomes, is that, well, I was fighting extraterrestrials, or that's where we pick up on some skills. And then, you know what, your children will love you for being willing to talk about the video game, which is the love of their life at that point, or what they have passion for. If you show interest in their passions, you will learn more about the passions, and you will learn how they justify wanting to spend so many hours in. So definitely one question would be for parents to ask themselves is, where do you find that your child loses time? What activity do they lose time in? Mm-hmm. That would be a very important question. And then use that activity to find out what their interests and really what their skills are.
That's a great question. I really like that. And I'm thinking back, of course, to my own life too. Where do I lose time, and how does that relate? I've got to say, I really love that idea too. From my lens and my work, a lot of it's about empowerment. And I know a lot of young people that play a lot of games, one of the reasons is because they have such a sense of mastery and accomplishment with it. And maybe if they're not feeling that confidence in other points in their life, their parents actually being able to share, celebrate their skillfulness in that. I could see that also being a really empowering experience for the young people. And maybe if video games were, for example, a piece of, I'm not sure I'm competent enough, or I'm able to take on a university role, or, that fear piece, having those strengths acknowledged, I could also see would be a really important piece on getting them to that kind of place, if that is where they decide they want to go.
Well, that's what it is, right? It's about taking interest in your child's interest. And as parents, we'd be like, oh, I don't want to talk about video games today. And I think it's wrong. It's really good that we do. Not only that we may learn more about them, but we gain their trust in that we have interest in their interest. And think of them as adults. That's another tip, actually, I tell my parents is, and I didn't do that a lot as a parent. And so I am really passing on my mistakes to other people, plus everything else I've learned from education and professional experience. But treat them as an adult. It's, if they come out from school and you say, how was your day? And they say, fine. Think of it if your wife or your husband came out from work and you say, how was your day? Fine. How do you react to your spouse's fine? Perhaps use some of that to react to your child's fine, because it'll help you dig deeper into their experiences.
That is a great thing to keep in mind. You know, I also keep thinking, you know, we say these things like they're so easy, right? Of course, you know, you have obviously all this experience, you've done this work. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, but do you want to tell us more about what's happening on March 27th for those people that are saying, well, you know what, I try to listen to my kids. I have been listening. I have been asking them these questions and I'm not getting the answers I want. I'm not getting these responses. Do you want to tell us about that?
Well, I'm doing this workshop on March 27 with a lady I met not so long time ago, and her name is Leah Fink. And we just connected right away, which was really cool. And we have the same interest. The same interest is based on our past experiences, based on our knowledge from the professional experience that we both have gone through. We are doing a workshop for parents and teens, and it's on March 27. The focus is to give you a hands-on experience on practicing what I have been talking about, that active listening, that questioning, and that ability to say, okay, you like music, let's sit down and talk about it. And yes, and we will provide you with resources and activities to practice. The cool thing about it, and we hope you think that too, is that we want the parent and the teen to show up. So it's a parent and teens workshop. We won't put too much pressure on you to speak if you're not comfortable, but I think you will like what we have to offer. It's going to be interactive and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, and like you mentioned before, you know, a really important piece can sometimes be just having that third-party moderator that's really helping you through it, so you're not getting trapped in the same patterns that you've already tried, because I'm sure people have already tried things and are just working to keep getting better and better at that communication relationship piece. So I'm really excited about it, just like you are. What we'll do is we'll post the link for that in the chat if people are interested in checking it out. And both me and Hoda are available for questions. You'll see our links to our LinkedIn, so please feel free to contact us. Hoda, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat. I obviously love the work you're doing because you do offer so many services that really are helping, you know, not just youth, but their families come together in a healthy way, in a way that they can embrace their future. And I think that's so exciting.
Thank you so much, Leah, for having me on the launch of your live show. And I look forward to further collaborations.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.